25 minutes before 11 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in this Friday morning. Where do you think you might be if you looked around and you found yourself surrounded by gangsters and addicts and prostitutes and just pretty much the people that you probably try to stay away from most of the time? What if I told you were in a church, a 24-hour church? 24 hours a day this church is open. It's out in Los Angeles, I think. I'm going to be corrected if I'm wrong here. I've thought this many times when somebody picks on religion or Christianity specifically. I've often thought when they say we're a bunch of hypocrites, I always say, well, no, you don't understand. We're not going to church because we consider ourselves perfect. We don't go to a restaurant because we consider ourselves full. We go to a restaurant because we consider ourselves hungry, right? Mm-hmm. Same thing with church. You go to a church because you consider yourself, really in need of something. You're not perfect. And Pastor Matthew Barnett has done an amazing thing. And he's the pastor of the Angelus Temple, the founder of the Dream Center. That's the 24-hour church I was telling you about. It says here, that is a volunteer-driven organization that finds and fills the needs of individuals and families and services over 80,000 people each month.
That is phenomenal.
Each month. His book is called Misfits Welcome. Find yourself in Jesus and bring the world along for the ride. I love everything that this man has done and that I know about him. Pastor Matthew Barnett. Good morning, Pastor.
What a joy to be with you guys. Thank you for the honor of allowing me to be with you.
Where are you right now?
I'm in downtown Los Angeles.
Downtown L.A. It's been years since I've been downtown L.A. How's it looking? Is it looking better? You must have cleaned it up a bit. 80,000 people a month, huh?
Yeah, it's incredible. We have thousands of people that we're reaching. We have a hospital with 750 people that live here every day that were homeless, runaways, human trafficking victims whose lives are being impacted, and it's incredible. It started with a little old apartment building next to our church, and took in our first gang member 20 years ago, and now it's kind of a landmark building in Hollywood on the freeway, and it's so neat to see that many people that are coming in all hours of the day, kicking off of drugs, heroin addiction, runaway street kids, and they just show up all hours of the day, and
wow.
We just take them in and help them. And so these misfits that the world calls misfits, chasing the LA and Hollywood dream, and then when they leave, they come out and they find that there's empty in the world out here in LA. And but then we pick them up and put them back together again, and see God begin to use them for something great.
And how long ago did you start this? 20 years?
20 years ago, yep.
Wow.
Years.
So it was an idea, and what was day one like? I mean, did you open up the door and say, well, come on in, anybody who needs help?
Actually, it didn't start that way. I was given a little church building and that nobody wanted to be in the 1990s after the riots and the earthquakes in L.A., and it was a place that I was supposed to help my dad for 3 months to kind of get a church going, and I got there, and there was no church left. Everyone left the neighborhood and the community, and I realized that I wasn't sent there to do the traditional Sunday morning thing, and that I was just supposed to start helping rebuild the city person by person. And my life became surrounded by my first drug addict I took into my house, and scared to death on how to make it all work, and I didn't understand anything. I didn't come from the background, and that kind of started the journey of just brokenness, and just one person at a time, one food bag at a time. And it's been incredible to see all these little miracles that have built up over 20 years into now a 400,000 square foot hospital that just never closes. I mean, we had a girl come in the other day, a human trafficking victim, and she was 14, and she was on stage giving her story about being trafficked all across America from 14 years of age till 17.
Wow.
And then now she's going to college. We rescued this girl from her pimp. She's going to college now, and she's studying to be a telescope maker for NASA. I mean, these are the kind of misfits that we get, but we just don't minister to their need. We really minister to their potential, and I think that's what makes a difference.
It seems that because you have such a giving heart, that it was because of the one incident that you related in the book about your dad when you were younger and played on a football team, the Pop Warner.
Yeah, it was really interesting. I remember. I'm glad this first time someone's asking the question regarding the book with this. But I was a little kid, and my dad always had a knack for reaching hurting people. He always had a knack for just helping people. He had a church of 10,000 members, one of the first persons ever to do it. But he would pick up people on Sunday morning in his car that were homeless and bring them to church. He was an amazing guy. And so I played Pop Warner football, and there's a dad that lost it on the sidelines. He got mad about a call, and we were on the 1 yard line, our team, and they threw the flag, and then he lost it. They called a penalty on his son, and so our team got 15 yards because of his unsportsmanlike conduct. So we were moving all the way down the field because of this dad who was yelling at the referee. And so we went from our own 1 yard line to the other 1 yard line, 98 yards of penalties because of one unruly father who just got lost in the moment. And the ref kicked him out of the game, rightfully so. He was out of control. And he was just yelling and yelling, and then he walked and he put his head in shame, and all those parents were screaming at him and yelling at him, and he walked out, and I saw my dad follow that man to the car. And my dad ministered to him and said, I understand you did the wrong thing. You're probably embarrassed. You're full of shame today. And my dad just started encouraging the man. The man just broke down and cried. He had other things going on in his life that were causing him to be like this. And my dad talked to him and prayed with him, and that man became changed from that day. He became one of the ushers in my dad's church.
Oh, wow.
And he turned around to be one of the opposite. He turned around to be the biggest supporter of the players on the field when he used to be the most negative guy yelling all the time.
Wow.
So I saw my dad put his arm around that misfit father that everyone was yelling at and tracked him down and encouraged him. And I'll never forget that as a boy, watching him kind of stand out for the outcast on that day.
I love that story. There's a cliche, I guess you call it a cliche, that I love. It's called, it is, and I know you've heard it 100 million times, there but by the grace of God go I. I think that when I walk through a park and I see somebody homeless, I think to myself, assuming that they're legitimately homeless and not faking it and begging for money, that could be me. I mean, there are so many things that could have gone wrong in my life that could have left me in that position, but it's only by the grace of God. So that I'm not really not a misfit. I'm just as much a misfit as a misfit is.
That's exactly right. And when I, started reaching out to hurting people, I found that I was the greatest misfit of all. I was totally couldn't understand the pain. I couldn't relate to the pain. And at first, I didn't even try to help anybody because I said, if I can't relate to what's going on, how in the world am I ever going to be able to make a difference? But then I realized you can't fight love, you can't fight consistency, and you can stay and be an example. And those are the things that allowed crime to drop 73% in our community. And I think there's a lot of people, I know in Los Angeles, that they've never been 5 miles away from where they live in Skid Row, and we take them out here. We got families now that are buying hot dog carts, and they're bringing their children out every Wednesday night and just serving hot dogs to homeless people on the street, and yet their whole life they've never even visited the other side of the track.
Is that right? Wow.
What we're just trying to do is to get people to see the need face to face. And when people see the need and they go out with somebody who's already doing it, it oftentimes confronts them to want to make a difference. I tell my daughter, she's 11 years of age, and we go to school. I'm already teaching her to go look for misfits in her school. So at lunchtime, when all the kids are fighting for the right table and who to sit by, she goes out every day and she looks for the kid that sits all by themselves in the cafeteria and sits by them. Because I've trained her when she's really young and taught her that the greatest way to live life is to bless and to be a servant. And she started a program called Kids That Care, and she has little kids stepping up to challenges all the time, and they rise up and they meet needs and make it so it's not too young to teach kids to go out and look for misfits and help these kids. A lot of these kids' lives will be shaped by one person who sat by them in a lunchroom. And how powerful is that, our willingness and availability to be there for people.
I love what you're saying. Gosh, I forgot what I was going to say.
You equate the word misfit to in your book to people feeling that they're invisible. And I think that's really fascinating.
In the book, I remember a story of a man. We were reaching out to in the street, and I said, "Sir, we have these socks that we give homeless people because those are like gold to people on the streets." And I said, "Sir, we got socks for you." And he looked at me with a puzzled look and a glaze over his face. And I said, "Sir, I got some socks for you." And he looked at me and And like he couldn't respond. And finally, after about the 5th time of saying that, he looked at me and he said, "Oh," he said, "You're talking to me?" He said, "I thought I was invisible." And when he said that, my heart literally sunk. I mean, the man had so many people pass by him every single day that he literally started to think that he was invisible. And it just reminded us, we just did an event called Serve 24 where we served the community 24 straight hours nonstop. That's all we did. For 24 hours, we went to about 5,000 people, did a 24-hour. We saw people in the beaches and they were left alone, and they felt invisible. And we thought, we don't want to interrupt somebody, interrupt their world. We were shocked to find out how many people wanted their world to be interrupted and just wanted someone to love them and encourage them. And so we went out looking for misfits, and our goal is to take a big old spotlight and shine the light of Christ and the love of God and the love that's in our heart to everyone that we find.
Somebody told me the other day that the actor Jim Carrey made the statement in which he said, "I wish everybody could be rich and famous. Then they would realize that the answer to happiness is not being rich and famous." I'm wondering how many people have come to you who do not fit the normal profile that you've described, but rather they are financially very well off, but yet broken in some way, that they come to you for that reason, for something other than financial reasons.
Oh, absolutely. They come to us and they have no outlet for what they have. I mean, their whole life becomes accumulating, and so it becomes a little bit sad in the sense of living your life that way. And when they come to the Dream Center, we get a lot of celebrities that come here and that come to serve, and they just shocked. They get healed as they're serving others. They go out thinking that they're going to make a difference and change lives, and they do. But what happens is they get changed, and they find that some of the greatest healing in their life is through serving, because when your whole life, everyone's coming to you and giving you, and then when you start living your life outward and emptying yourself and not accumulating, but actually emptying of yourself, that's when the healing starts taking place. And so we have got people from Beverly Hills driving down to get healed just by picking up a bag of food and going down to the streets and loving people. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen. One guy told me that he spent hundreds of thousands of dollars a year trying to get well in counseling. He said, not until I got out of myself and began to serve other people to where the real healing began to happen in my life. And so I think a lot of times, we feel like we're going to change the world when we help people, but the reality is we get changed in the process of doing it.
Absolutely. That's the irony. That's the paradox, isn't it? That's the beauty. Jesus was ridiculed for being with the prostitutes and the thieves, and of course he said, well, that's who I'm here for. I'm here to help them. I love what you're saying. I love what you're doing. You're a role model for all of us, really. The book is called Misfits. Welcome. Matthew Barnett is our guest. We'll be right back with Matthew after this break. This is The Source, WOCA.
The weather is brought to you by myfwc.com. Safe boating is no accident. A pleasant day today with sunshine and low humidity, the high 80 to 84. And tonight will be clear and comfortable, lows ranging from the mid to upper 50s in a few inland spots to 62 along the coast. Plenty of sunshine tomorrow and pleasantly warm in the afternoon, the high 82 to 86. And for Sunday, pleasant with a full day of sunshine, the high 81 to 85. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Joe Lundberg.
Veterans are the foundation upon which our freedom is built. Listen to The Source, WOCA, each Thursday at 9 a.m. to Veterans News with Hank Whittier from Vets Helping Vets. You'll hear tributes, information on veterans issues, and stories that will make you laugh, cry, and feel proud. Veterans News always focuses on the military, past and present, and on our first responders. Veterans News is brought to you each week by Bob Wine's Camellia Gardens and Nursery, keeping you blooming since 1952.
What you may have missed on the John Tesh Radio Show.
Talking about ourselves stimulates the brain the same way love, food, and cash do. Everybody's favorite subject is themselves. So, on a date, ask her about herself. Adults studying a new language learn words and phrases faster when they sing them. Normal, happy cows produce about 9 gallons of milk a day. But super relaxed and happy cows produce more than 10 gallons.
Intelligence for your life on the John Tesh Radio Show. Don't miss this stuff.
Good credits, bad credits. It's none of our business because we're not an auto dealer. We're not a bank. We're not your mother. We're OcalaForSale.com. Marion County's marketplace for cars, trucks, and SUVs. We've got thousands of sellers standing by to take your call. No middleman. But hurry, don't walk, don't run. Just sit down and log on to OcalaForSale.com. Prices and inventory change daily. Offer does not include dealer upcharge. Undercutting, rust proofing, factory surcharge, or delivery fee. See website for details.
All right, 10 minutes before 11 o'clock. Thank you for staying with us. Misfits Welcome is the title of the book that we're focusing on. The book is written by Pastor Matthew Barnett out in Los Angeles. He's the founder of the Dream Center, which is a 24-hour church dubbed the Church That Never Sleeps, ministers to over 50,000 hurting people a week, and it sounds like he's done this for 20 years or so. And Matthew, I wanted to tell you something that I was thinking of during the break. Somewhere in the book, you talk about Peter, the disciple Peter. Well, first of all, before I tell you this, I want to tell you this other thing. The other thing is that many, many times we have authors who are on the air who have written philosophical books, and they try to, give you a way to live your life. And not that I would disagree with them, but I would often think the Bible has that message, but said better. It's like they have done a better job in the Bible than what you've done, sir. And no offense intended. Of course, I don't actually say that. It's something I'll say to Robin later on. I'll say it's funny how they're not saying that this is from the Bible, but it is. I often have conversations with people who deny that there's a God. They're atheist or agnostic or something. And I'll say, well, don't you believe in what Jesus said? No, I don't believe in Jesus. Well, I didn't ask you that. I said, don't you believe in what he said? I mean, he said the same thing you're saying about feeding the hungry and loving each other and all that. So getting to the part about Peter, I've often thought that I would be as fallible as Peter at that moment when he denies knowing Christ. I would be scared for whatever reason. I would say, oh, gosh, I didn't know that guy. Mm-hmm. And then I'd be, gosh, throwing my friend under the bus. I wouldn't have been Judas. I wouldn't have betrayed my friend to the point where somebody crucified a friend, but I could be that. I could find myself. I could see myself there. I could be Thomas. I could be the guy who doubts him. The guy who has to physically have my hand in his wound. But you use Bible stories to make your points, which is different than a lot of books that are philosophical in nature that kind of make up their own stories. I love the fact that you use Bible stories.
Yeah, I do, because, if you look at the Bible, it really is full of misfits. It's funny. We call them heroes and saints and all these superhero names that we give them, But if you look at it, the Bible's full of people who said, I'm too young, Jeremiah. I'm too old, Abraham. I'm from the least of the families, said Gideon. And it was interesting how God would allow them to kind of make excuses about their lives, and he would listen. Peter denied the Lord. He was full of shame and was basically retired from the ministry with his fishing boat out there. And there's just a bunch of people that just felt like misfit for whatever was before them. And after they made excuses, God went on to use them anyways. Elijah had a depression problem by the tree and wanted to die. I mean, it's so relatable, and I think it's so wonderful that we can draw from these experiences to say, look, we've been in one of those situations where we feel like, how in the world can we ever be used with all these limitations and barriers in our mind and in our spirit? And yet God, despite that, just decides to use us anyways. He decides to use a white kid from Los Angeles, California, Phoenix, Arizona, from the suburbs in a suburb high school, and send him to the streets of L.A. and figure out a plan in 20 years to try to make it. And so I think that's the beauty of the book, is showing that, these people in the Bible we call saints were really just misfit, insecure people that God decided that he was going to use anyways, just because after they voiced their complaints, they went on to trust no matter what.
When you are helping the people that want to have help and you aid them in this endeavor, whose expectations are higher for the individual, yours or the people themselves? And are those expectations realistic, using your example of the young lady who's designing the telescope for NASA?
I think when people have fallen so hard in life, we try to throw a big old spotlight of hope immediately on them when they get there, because a lot of times people say slowly take them to the dream. We want to blast them with the possibility of what life can be. And then we walk them towards that big light of hope that's out there somewhere. And when people come to the Dream Center, they're beaten up. We have women that just got abused, and they call us in the middle of the night, and they're just so broken. And when they get in there, the first thing we do is try to help them to survive. But then we make the transition of how can we encourage you to thrive, to dream again. And we ask them the question, what is your dream? And to be honest with you, it kind of freaks them out. They're looking at us like, how can you ask me to dream when all I'm trying to do is make it through the night? I said, well, what if we could help you make it through the night, make it through the week, make it through the month, and make it through an entire year? What can your life can become?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, start seeing moms, 45, 50 years of age with a third grade education, going to GED. They get their GED. They're in community college. And then 2 or 3 years later, they're really starting to believe that they don't necessarily have to live off the economy or the rest of their life. They can get jobs and employment. And they blink, and it seems like they become a whole different person. And that's the road that we try to take people on is to ask them questions like, what is your dream? It changes the dynamic of the vision when you ask questions like that.
How many of the people that have been helped have come back to help others?
Oh, hundreds. 70% of my staff is graduates of our rehab program. I like to say in our church we got ex-drug addicts, we got ex-murderers, we got ex-pimps, and that's just the pastoral staff right there,
Oh, no.
What else we got going on? But it's 70%, and we've probably graduated about 1,700 to 1,800 people in rehab over the last 5 years alone, who have come through the program and are fully integrated back into society again and have job employment and work. We got hotels like the Beverly Hills Montage that are hiring our rehab graduates. And it's just amazing what's happening in the lives of people, and they're around a culture of we can do this. They're not around a depressing culture. We're just trying to help you get clean. We're not just helping you try to get clean. We're trying to get you excited about something that is so big that you don't want to go back to where you used to live. And so that's kind of the goal. That's why we call it the Dream Center, and we're just trying to get people to dream big.
I think what your book is going to do, especially for people who can't get to the Dream Center, I think what it will do is it'll make the person reading it who can say, oh my gosh, that's me. I'm the misfit. And I've always thought the people in that church down the road were hypocrites, but I think I'm going to go in there and be with them, and maybe that church will be their Dream Center. And I think that's what the book will do.
Yeah, and that's really the goal, too, is to get people to realize that, Sunday morning in the church is not a destination spot where we gather to just hang out. It's a launching pad of what we can be Monday through Saturday in the heart of our communities.
Yeah. I have a copy of the book. I'd like to give it away. It's called Misfits Welcome. Matthew Barnett wrote the book. It's Pastor Matthew Barnett. Definitely deserves that title after everything we've heard. There's a part in the book where you ask, I think it was you who asked somebody, what do you want for Christmas? And he says a second chance. And I think that's the most profound answer you could have had with that question. And so for anybody, if you're looking for some kind of fuel to drive you so that you pursue that second chance with maybe some help from somebody like the Dream Center, this is a great book. Maybe leave it under somebody else's tree. I don't know. You might be telling them something. We think you're a misfit, but
you also address in the book the people that aren't the misfits, that are always called upon to help others that need help. And you use the word weary in your book, that sometimes people just don't like being asked all the time to help others because they can only stretch themselves so far.
Yeah, I know. It's a balance you got to find, too, because I know a lot of people kind of falling off the wagon when it comes to not refreshing themselves, renewing themselves, and doing the things that you love to do. I know I hit that crashing point in my own life, and now I've been here for 20 years, and I'm like, how can I live a marathon of helping people? And I want to live my whole life this way. And there's some times that I just got to enjoy life and let myself enjoy life and just not live under the weight all the time of the burden, but try to be refreshed so that I can give my people the very, very best. And I think it's very, very important. You want to give people your best, and sometimes that just means taking time for yourself to be encouraged so that you can give more and be better and stronger.
Yeah. Pastor, we're almost out of time. Give us a website, please.
DreamCenter.org. And, hey, if you know somebody who needs a free program for a year to get off drugs, we have applications online if you want to come and volunteer for a week at the Dream Center and stay and do a missions trip and take a vacation and live here for a week and go out with us and reach Misfits and have a great time. It's DreamCenter.org. You can volunteer. People can be helped on that website, whatever you need.
Okay, excellent.
Wow.
Thank you, Matt. Wow, what an invitation. I have the book here, by the way. If you call me if you want the one that was sent to us. Pastor Matthew Barnett, thank you so much.
Fox News Radio, I'm Lillian Wu. Fox News confirms the president appoints an Ebola czar, Ron Klain. Yesterday, he explained the need to appoint an additional person, saying it's no reflection on the officials currently dealing with it.
Not because the three of these folks have not been